When the Kia Stinger set the auto show season on fire last year, everyone said, well, that is an unlikely vehicle from Kia. It is a performance sedan, or performance hatchback, we should probably say, with as much as 365 horsepower, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. There's no question it has a really good-looking pedigree. Finally today, I got a chance to find out, both on the street and in some closed courses, whether or not the performance lives up to the specs, the styling, and the hype. I started out driving the Stinger GT, specifically the highest trim level, the GT2. One of the first things I figured out is it's very easy to drive fast. It's reasonably quiet, it's composed. I consistently am coming up on either speed limit signs or turns faster than I realized I was going, and I need to slow down. As for its actual speed, with this twin turbocharged 3.3 liter V6 engine and 356 horsepower, it is quicker, actually, we now know, than it originally was advertised as being. The estimate that came out earlier was 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. The engineers went back to the drawing board and they tweaked and they changed camshaft profiles, and they say 100 different little changes, and now we have this. 0 to 60 in a claimed 4.7 seconds. It doesn't feel extraordinarily fast off the line. It's not the turbo lag you used to experience in cars. That is pretty much gone, thankfully. But it's a little bit slower getting off the line. This happens to be the all-wheel drive version of the car, so certainly no torque would be wasted. I wish they had put a little bit more power into it off the line. But once you get going, nice mid-range punch. It's a pretty impressive engine. The transmission as well, an 8-speed, conventional torque converter automatic transmission. There is no manual. It shifts reasonably quickly. It's responsive to the pedal. It is also responsive to the paddles, which are standard. The paddles increase the shift speed by about 10%, they say. Now, this is not as quick as a lot of the dual clutch automatic transmissions out there, but it is certainly not a problem. There are different modes. The difference between comfort and sport is not that great, at least as it regards the aggressiveness of the shifting pattern of the transmission. Even on the street, even before I put it on any kind of closed course, I felt like it could use a more aggressive sport mode, maybe a sport and a sport plus. When you're at high speeds like this and you go from comfort to sport, it'll just take one gear off. It'll go from 8th to 7th. And at lower speeds, it might take 2 gears off, but it's not a super aggressive shift program, which, I mean, in a car like this, the way it's engineered, it could support. I wouldn't mind having a real aggressive one that downshifts through the gears more noticeably as you're decelerating. The Stinger, as advertised, handles very nicely. It has a great deal of composure, partly because of that long wheelbase. Gives you real nice ride quality, for one thing, but it also good deal of stability. The weight distribution is good. It leans a little bit more toward push, understeer in corners, but that's the safe way to go. It feels pretty similar between the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions. If you're lucky enough to find yourself in a canyon road like this, you just find that it just digs in and keeps on going. Throttle's reasonably responsive if you keep it, especially if you keep it in the right gear. And the steering is a high point. Good feedback, good torque buildup as you move away from center. And there's actually quite a big noticeable difference in the setting between comfort and sport in the amount of steering assist and the feedback than in the changes in the transmission response and the adaptive suspension in this car. Fortunately, this car is equipped with Michelin Pilot Sport 4 summer tires, super grippy. They're taking everything I can throw at them, and they want more. It's not to say there's anything wrong with the rear-wheel drive version, but the all-wheel drive is even more unflappable. It has rear bias, so it feels like a rear-wheel drive car, but it can throw up to about 50% of the torque to the front when needed, and it actually varies based on the mode. When the car is in sport mode, it sends only up to 20% of the torque to the front wheels. And I found on the autocross and the road course that this really gave the car a more consistent feel Reactive all-wheel drive systems that shift too much torque can really change the character of the car abruptly. I don't know if sport mode would make lap times faster, but it definitely makes the car feel more consistent. Now, I was fortunate to get some time on the street in the base Stinger. The non-GT, it has a 2-liter 4-cylinder with a twin-scroll turbocharger. And where the GT has 365 horsepower, this one has 255. Even though it is less powerful, it has decent power. I was pretty impressed with it. It's okay off the line, sounds a little bit buzzier as you might expect. The transmission continues to work really nicely, responds quickly, doesn't bog down. It's quick with the paddles as well. Kia says the 0 to 60 time in this version of the car is 5.9 seconds. Very, very respectable. This car has regular shock absorbers. It doesn't have the adaptive suspension, and it's tuned pretty nicely. Again, I think the long wheelbase really pays off here. Now, here's something that really surprised me. The brakes in the base Stinger feel pretty good. Now, in the Stinger GT, you get Brembo brand 4-piston front, 2-piston rear calipers, performance brakes, and they did prove today to be very fade resistant. As for the pedal feel, decent, linearity, decent, not top of class or anything like that. And now we're in a car with 1-piston calipers at all 4 corners. They are not branded, they're just plain old brakes, and they feel really good. They don't actually feel much different in terms of the strength. They give me just as much confidence for stopping power as the others did. Sometimes it's not about the formula, it's about what you experience, and that's what I experienced. After a day of driving different versions of the Stinger, I have no question that it's a performer. But I do think it might be a car for a certain type of person like me who doesn't care what the badge is because the performance is all there. Now, if you're an image weenie who has to have a Porsche badge or an Audi badge or some other better known luxury or performance brand, then I'm sure they'll take your money. But if you're just looking for the performance, it's definitely here.